All right, Paradise Springs Wine Club, welcome back. It was March, the last time we had a wine pickup, which is right before COVID kind of kicked in heavily here, and we were forced to shut down. So we're excited to welcome you back. We wanted to do things a little bit differently this time because pickup, while the property is still starting to reopen in phase one, we're not going to be able to have your pickup party as planned, but we do have selections for you to taste through. And Rob and I wanted to get together and taste these wines with you and do this virtually so you have it at home. You can do it on your leisure. Or if you open your bottles at some point and want to come back to this video to hear what we have to say about the wines, or just tune in with us, you can do that anytime. So, I just want to thank you guys for being great members. We have some fantastic wines this quarter for you, and we look forward to seeing you all again shortly in Paradise. So. With that, we'll get to our first wine here, which is our Céval Blanc.
Okay, so for those who aren't familiar with Céval is a hybrid variety. It's a variety that's been planted and grown for quite a long time in Virginia. Since the infancy of Virginia wine industry, it was developed up at Cornell University in New York, and it always holds into its acidity really well, even with the hot, humid weather that we have here in Virginia. We choose to do ours all in stainless steel. I personally just think it lends itself much better to no oak or very little oak, so we just stylistically do ours in stainless steel to keep it very fresh and vibrant. And this one's no different. For those who have been members for a few years, we've done a Céval Blanc the past few vintages. I would say if you want to compare this one to the 2018, the 18 probably has a little more acidity. This is probably a little bit riper version. So let's go ahead and get into it. Get a little swirl to release some aromatics. Sniff. I mean, I don't know about you, Kirk, but right away this wine, a lot of stone fruit, peach, honeysuckle, a lot of the same kind of common aromatics that we usually get on our Viognier. I get from this one. And let's go ahead and give her a taste.
It's got that nice bright acidity to it too. I remember when we first started talking about making a Céval Blanc here, we had access to the fruit from up at Bro Vineyards, and it is planted at vineyards across the state. And so we thought it would be fun. I mean, this is one of the first wines we did to kind of jump in and make wine club only type of wines. And so what we try to do each year is source a little bit of fruit from in and around to give something else fun and educational and exclusive to you guys as members. And Céval has really become one of those wines because I think we'll sell all of this out through the club here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this one's going to disappoint. This is a great, as we move in, it's hot and humid here today, as we move into summer and all that, good acidity, very thirst quenching. A lot of those stone fruits first translate to the palate early on, then it has a nice kind of like a green apple finish to this wine. Like I said, very bright, but very smooth. I think that's the signature of our wines here at Paradise Springs. A nice long, smooth finish to this wine, and I think this just falls in line with most of our other wines in that way. So
now, Rob, what would you tell everyone the difference of Céval and Vidal Blanc? Because they're both hybrid grapes. Both grow well here in Virginia, but maybe tell everyone a little bit of the difference because they know the Vidal from doing a single, Vidal and also the base of our Saumur Blanc.
I would say Céval itself kind of lends itself to a little bit more Sauvignon Blanc-esque in flavor, where you're going to get some of the grassier notes, some more of this like stone fruit notes, where Vidal Blanc you're going to stay more in the apple and pear notes. I did say that this does have a little bit of green apple in the finish, and this one does indeed. Vidal Blanc's just a little bit thicker skinned. It lends itself, and it ripens a little bit later than Céval Blanc. So Céval Blanc is usually, besides our grapes for our sparkling wines, is usually the first grape in the cellar. It ripens a lot faster than Vidal Blanc, and Vidal Blanc being a little bit thicker can lend itself to do a dessert style. In most cases, up in Canada in the Ontario region, it's that they love the thick skin because they let it freeze after the first frozen weather comes in that area, and there are a lot of ice wines made from that variety. So I would say there would be the main differences between these two varieties. So.
And what type of food would you pair with this?
I would pair, like cheese-wise, I would probably lean towards goat cheese, a softer cheese, a chèvre like that. But I mean, this would be dynamite with some oysters, you know, some seafood.
That sounds amazing.
You know, like a cold seafood salad, or oysters on the half shell. I think with this good acidity and a little bit of minerality that runs through this wine, I think would be a good pairing with that.
That's great. And if you notice too, we put a screw top on this. So you know, most of our wines, if not all of our wines that don't see oak anymore, we've gone to a screw top. We think it keeps that kind of bright freshness for the wine, but it's also easy to open. You know, you can throw this in the cooler, you can go out for a picnic, go on your boat, travel with it anywhere, and keep it cool. It's perfect for these hot summer days.
Yeah, I mean, these stainless steel whites that, you know, we're not really intending any long aging on, you know, it takes away any chance of y'all purchasing a bottle and having it be cork tinted. So, you know,
like that.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then we can adjust the lining in these caps to let it breathe if we wanted to put a wine in that needed time too. So, you know, we're kind of taking advantage of science, and as the stigmatism as screw caps is going away slowly over time with the quality of the wine that's in a screw cap bottle, it's kind of good to see on our part because it makes it convenient and safer for us on our end and more convenient for you on your end. So we're taking advantage of it for sure. So
quite possibly maybe in a can one day. I don't know. It's becoming more
happen.
So we'll see what happens. But cool. Well, enjoy the Seyval Blanc, and we'll be right back with you. If you want to hit pause on the video, enjoy your Seyval. We'll be right back with our next wine. All right, welcome back. Our second wine for our tasting today is our 2018 Chardonnay. And as you notice, we have a cork in this wine because this wine does see oak in the goods. We use 100% French oak in this. And, you know, for those who don't know, Chardonnay has actually been one of our staples here at Paradise Springs for a long time. Our first year opening the tasting room, we had our 2009 Chardonnay available, which actually won the Virginia Governor's Cup as the best wine in the state of Virginia that year. And that really kind of put us on the map. And I remember people driving up here to the cabin and popping their trunk and throwing cases in, and you know, we still have a few of those bottles in the library as well. So it's fun to go back and taste these Chardonnays as they've aged, and occasionally we do a vertical as well. But this is our latest release of 2018. So Rob, if you want to tell them about where the fruit comes from a little bit, and then in your process.
Winemaker. So first, we're in the cabin. It's kind of throwback Thursday here as we're videoing this. You know, that we're at our first tasting bar. It's kind of cool to be down here again. It's been a while since either one of us were down here. It's kind of fun to be back here. So with this Chardonnay, I've really backed down the amount of new oak that we're using on our Chardonnay. I just think our market, you guys are asking for a fresher, brighter, less oak Chardonnay, at least new oak flavors on it, you know. With this wine, I'm really trying to get the balance of this wine, and you know, I want it to have some oak notes on it because I think it really enhances the fruit, especially with Chardonnay, but I don't want it to be the major player. I don't want it to overtake the fruit that's in the wine, the acidity, the alcohol. I want it all to marry and work well, and you know, that's really my philosophy in winemaking, is the balance of the wine, where all the different components, the acid, the alcohol, the oak, if it has oak, the fruit all kind of work well together, and just kind of each component lifts each other one up. Most of this fruit in this 18 is coming from our vineyard in the Shenandoah Valley, Brown Bear Vineyards. I think it's one of the best sites for Chardonnay in the state. I really do. It's got great elevation, a lot of rock in the soil. It's really forcing those vines to go down deep for its water source and its nutrient, and it helps really retain a mineral backbone of this wine and really make this vine work, which, you know, when the vine's working and stressing, it's producing less fruit but higher quality fruit. And I really think it shows forward in this Chardonnay as you're out and tasting other Chardonnays from the state. Ours is known as one of the standouts for sure. You know, and like I said, I'm really reducing the amount of oak on this wine, new oak. It's all still barrel fermented, barrel aged, doing that to help the oak integrate into this wine. So it, you know, it gets back to what I was saying earlier with it all working well together with the other components. You know, so let's go ahead and give her a little spin and sniff. I mean, you know, I know Kirk knows this. We hear a lot from our staff that a lot of people shy away from Chardonnay when they first come on Paradise Springs, and you know, we've trained our staff to really tell people to, look, please give it a shot. It's different. You know, I like to call those people ABCers, anything but Chardonnay. But when they have ours, they were like, wow, this is not what I was expecting, and that's by design. So
now going back to the vineyard, this is a combination of our old blocks from that vineyard, pretty old vines, and we have new block that we have planted as well. And the first time we've gotten fruit off of it, so a little bit went into that. So I think the potential of that new block is really starting to show.
Yeah, for sure.
Where the future of Chardonnay is really bright at that site, even further for us.
Yeah, I mean, on the nose, we're really not letting this wine go through any malolactic fermentation. And what that means is we're retaining the malic acid in the grape, and grapes come in with a lot of malic and a lot of tartaric acid. The malic acid, if you're not sure what it is, if you bite into a Granny Smith apple, it's loaded with that sharp malic acid. If we would let this wine go through secondary fermentation, where bacteria is changing the malic acid to lactic acid, we would have that. That's where you get the buttery notes, or that real heavy, thick, creamy kind of note and texture to this wine. We want this wine to be very bright and vibrant, so we're not really, each vintage is a little bit different, and as the tough part of my job, I'm tasting the barrels in the cellar as they're aging. We will let some go through in a vintage where we think the acid is too much and let it soften a little bit. But once it hits a certain point for this style of Chardonnay that we're annually producing, we go ahead and prevent any of that from continuing. So we keep that bright malic note, which is that apple pear note that's inherent through every vintage of our Chardonnay, going back to the original one. So,
one of Rob's famous saying always with Chardonnay is you can see into a winemaker's soul by the way he makes Chardonnay, because if you think about it, it's one of those wines that you can make in so many different styles. You can make it sweet, you can make it dry, oaked, unoaked. How much oak do you use? Malolactic fermentation, non-malolactic. How long you let it age. There's so many different ways you can do that. So Rob has a very distinct style and process for making Chardonnay. And what's pretty cool is if you come to the winery and take the tour between October 1st and I'd say mid-May, about this time, you can actually go into the barrel room, and we have a glass head on one of our barrels. So you can literally look into Rob's soul by looking into this barrel, and it's backlit. It's pretty cool. You can see everything that's going on in the barrel. So if you haven't done that yet, I highly recommend it. It's pretty educational and fun to see, and unique for someone to be able to come and see what's happening as this wine is literally aging on wood.
I mean, it's, Chardonnay is, like Kirk says, the blank canvas, because it can grow in every major wine region in the world. It can be done all the different ways that he described. You can really see what the winemaker's about, what his approach is, his oak usage, the ripeness that he likes to Chardonnay, how much acid he likes. So I would say this, if and most wineries do Chardonnay because you all love it, and it's still a big grape. It's popular in the marketplace. So it's a good way to kind of, like Kirk said, looking to see what style and all that the winery's about.
I think it's still the most widely planted grape in Virginia, or it was at one point.
It was at one point.
Cab
I know.
Franc might have surpassed
Cab Franc or Merlot are up there. They're, splitting hairs between those three. I mean, Petit Verdot and Petit Manseng have come on strong the past 10 years for sure, but it's definitely up there in the top three. Food-wise with this, like roasted chicken, a pork tenderloin, lobster, on that end, my favorite cheese with this would be a triple creme brie. I think that high butter content and fatness, really is a very unctuous pairing with this wine that really plays off of the acidity that's left in this wine and the oak notes that are in this wine. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards with this. So
that's great. So, all right, well, enjoy the Chardonnay. Sit back and press pause on that video, and we'll be right back with your next selection. And we'll go from there. All right, welcome back. We have our final wine of our selections, which is our 2017 Petit Verdot. Some of you might recognize this one already. Actually, we did a pre-release for this during COVID. We wanted to give something fun for everyone while they were staying at home. But if you didn't get this wine during that period, you have it now. And I really think, Petit Verdot is just one of the stars in Virginia. It wasn't but 10 years ago, not a lot of people were doing a single varietal Petit Verdot in Virginia. And I think, people started to gravitate towards it, that, it's becoming its own varietal. And where it's typically known as a blending grape in Bordeaux, or even in Napa, in very small percentages, really under 5% of a blend. We started doing it single varietal here, and I'm proud that we made our first Petit Verdot here actually in 2010. So we've been doing this wine for 10 years now, a decade, and I just think it gets better and better the more we learn to work with it, the sites we're planting it at, and We've done a huge planting of this at Brown Bear Vineyards, which is part of the planting we did a couple years ago. So that block is really just coming into its own, and so we got a bright future ahead with Petit Verdot.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell everyone about this wine?
Yeah. So, like Kirk was saying, Petit Verdot's gained a lot of traction. I can't even think of a handful of wineries that don't make a Petit Verdot varietal anymore. It's what you all you're starting to get into as a bigger, heavier varietal for us, and it's no different for us. We love it too. It goes into the other half of one of our flagship wines, the BVT, because we think it works really well with the Tannat in that instance. The bulk of this fruit here from this vintage coming forward is coming from that property in the Shenandoah Valley. It's a great site for it. Good soils, good elevation. We have access to a lot of good fruit from Petit Verdot, including the Williams Gap vineyard property, which the PVT has been solely from. So with this, PV, just giving it a swirl. I mean, I don't even have to even get close to the glass, and that floral note from Petit Verdot, that lilac violet really comes through, and then behind that I get some of that black fruit notes. I even get a little bit of anise on this, licorice anise one. That's kind of interesting. So let's give this one a taste.
This would be a great wine to decant. Really see the life of it open up over an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours.
For sure.
It'll definitely change.
Yeah, I mean, just from opening like we just did to 2 hours, I think you'll get a lot more out of this wine, and it'll just blossom with a lot more notes, a lot more going on with it. I mean, right now it's delicious. I think it's not the most tannic Petit Verdot we ever had, but it's still got a lot of tannins, but they're really soft, supple tannins. Which is nice in a wine like this because it makes it a little more approachable in youth, but those tannins are still there and abundant, which will help this wine with some longevity in its aging. And then, a lot of that black fruit translates on the palate. And, from the little bit of oak, the new oak, about 40% in this wine, I get a little finish of the bacon spice on this, which is kind of nice. It kind of wraps up the whole picture of this wine, from the floral notes to the fruit to the finish of the bacon spice. It's kind of a nice layer complexity of this wine. I want to drink more of this.
Rob, tell everyone about kind of your aging oak regimen on this, because I know we've aged this sometimes for on a 12-month cycle, and I think we've gone as long as a 24-month cycle.
Yeah.
And then certainly even longer for things like PVT when we have.
Yeah. So with Petit Verdot, and we were just discussing sourcing from multiple sites, each site's a little bit different. Some Petit Verdot from one site might be a little heavier and lighter than others. There's vintage variants. We definitely have that in Virginia. There's not a consistent, vintage from year to year. This was something we have to deal with as winemakers on the East Coast. That, I'm selecting the more approachable barrels for our Petit Verdot varietal, because typically we are aging it a little bit less, and then the Petit Verdot that's going into PVT, into the Moment, on one of our newer flagship wines, are going to be the little bit heavier barrels that do need more oak time, or time and oak, pardon me, and because we're trying to build a bigger, heavier, complex wine. So I think we're starting to move into leaning towards aging this Petit Verdot varietal for a little bit longer period than what we've used to. I would say on average, and like Kirk said, it's varied from year to year, and we played around with it. We've averaged about 10 months in oak on this. I think we're probably going to start leaning towards about 14 months in oak on this one. So the good thing is winemakers, when we're selecting our barrels from different forests and different grains of barrel, has an influence on how quick the oak impact on this wine is, and how quickly the air, the microoxygenation, where the air, the evaporation of wine out of the barrel and the air movement into the barrel to help this wine age in barrel. And that's one of the reasons you age in oak and wood. I can select barrels for these lots that can have an impact sooner in this wine's life as it's aging in the barrel room. And then some of those barrels with a different type of grain that are meant to be in these heavier, more age-worthier or flagship wines, I'll select oak that doesn't breathe as quick, doesn't impart its flavors as quick. So that's just some pull behind the curtain, if you will, just some of the tools that we have as winemakers to work with what we need to do in the wines, and adapt these wines to when they need to be in the marketplace, and the vintage, and how long it's going to age, and all that. So, but
So speaking of that PVT, we were supposed to have a release party for that actually right about when we got shut down from COVID. So that wine is available for purchase, and anyone who purchases 2 bottles of it between now and whenever we can have a release party, we'll get invited to that release party to come have a glass and taste it and have a good time with some live music and stuff. But we're going to do that when we can do it safely. So if you're interested in that wine, it is available, which is great. So. Rob, another question we have that people might be wondering is, what does Petit Verdot mean? I mean, Petit means little, Verdot means green.
Yeah.
Can you explain to everyone why it's called Petit Verdot?
So, the basis behind that name is that even the ripest Petit Verdot will still have a little bit of greenness in the seeds. So, for most varieties, outside of a few, we're judging, you have phenolic ripeness and you have chemistry ripeness. And chemistry ripeness is the sugar, the acid, the TA, and they're important numbers obviously. And then there's a phenolic ripeness, and the great example was last year in 2019, it was hot and dry and great for a lot of reds, and the season made a lot of bigger wines than we're used to. But early on with early reds like Cabernet Franc, for example, the chemistry numbers were telling you that this grape was ripe, but when you're tasting them, you're still getting a lot of that green pepper flavor. So, because the seeds still have a lot of greenness in them. So when we're out, taking readings from the field pre-harvest of whatever variety it is, we're looking at the chemistry. Like I said, that is important, but we're also munching on some berries, seeing what they taste like, spitting the seeds out. You kind of, for most vinifera varieties, you want a very brown, nutty tasting seed. Petit Verdot, you'll still have a little bit of greenness in that seed, even at phenolic ripeness, which is rare compared to Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Cab Sauv. So that's kind of the basis, the historical nature for this name. As I taste this wine, I'm starting to get some ideas of some food pairings. Like, I think with game, bison, like leg of lamb, I think Petit Verdot, because it has some of that floral greenness, that not the bell pepper greenness, but some of that herbaceous quality to it, especially here in Virginia, and some of those really deep dark fruit flavors and a good tank structure. I think that the bison, the game, the leg of lamb would be really good with this, with a really denser blue cheese. I think this would be a good pairing. It would kind of, what I would like to have with this. What would you have with this, Kurt?
Well, gosh, I can actually smell right now our new food truck, which is actually right outside, cooking up those flatbreads and pizzas. And gosh, I think that robust tomato sauce, that we make, and with that, those meats, meat lover pizza, pepperoni or something, sounds great. So I mean, I'm ready to go get a pizza right now. I can smell it in here. And for those who don't know, we have a new food truck on site. It's going to be here every weekend offering different offerings, and we're starting with flatbreads and some pizzas just to kind of find our rhythm with it, and we're going to slowly add some new items with breakfast sandwiches and specialty sandwiches, then getting into some more catering stuff, maybe little bites that'll pair with our pairings and tastings in the tasting room. So the sky's the limit with the culinary program, so we'll be able to do some fun pairings for everyone with our wines in the future. But man, it smells good. I'm getting hungry. So.
I recommend the buttered chicken pizza.
It's good too, a barbecue chicken.
Yeah.
So if you're on site right now, actually tasting and watching this, go on up and grab one and check it out. Otherwise, if you're coming to the site sometime soon, make sure to stop by and check it out, because we put a lot of effort into that. Hired a chef here, and we do everything from scratch. So it's really been great.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for being Wine Club members. We're hoping to do this, I think, every quarter now, because I think it creates a nice library for you guys to go back to. And if you don't open your bottles right away, you can come back to it at any time and reference this and taste along with us. And it's kind of a new age thing we've discovered in the virtual world post-COVID. And I think it's a good one that'll keep on going here and stay for a little while. So again, we want to thank you guys for being members. You guys are the lifeline of this winery, and we're excited to see everyone again. The property is reopened, as of this weekend on phase 1, and we'll move through the different phases as we're allowed to, keeping everyone safe. And hope you guys have stayed safe and enjoyed some great wines at home during this time. And thank you guys for all your support. And Paradise Springs will be here when we can all get back to normal, and we're here for you for whatever you need. So thank you guys. Cheers, Robert. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you guys again soon. Cheers.